All right, we're live. The sixth episode of this so called podcast and my personal project, Mindfield Sheriff. And this video, I would like to honor the podcast episode of A Modern Wisdom, which hosts Chris Williamson, and as a guest, he had he has a professor Andrew Huberman. Some of you maybe know him, some of don't, but this topic is personal to me because Chris Williamson and also Andrew Huberman are one of my ghost mentors and people I look up to on the internet. So I was very pleased that this episode came online, and the episode was released by the day 9th of the 9th of September. That's the month. And they discussed various topics. But one of the most impactful for me was parts when Chris is talking about his journey and his learning curve that he went through, and also how he's dealing with success, because the podcast Modern Wisdom is on fire, and the production, the quality of guests, and just complexity of Chris's mind is just mind blowing. We are so fortunate that we can absorb that kind of professionality and also just pure minds that are open to learn and are excellent at having conversations. That particular Chris is one of the reasons why I'm just taking this video at the moment. That's one of the reasons, because you can see how it changed his life, and through him can everybody of us change and getting better. And the amount of information is enormous, because even myself that I'm used to focusing for hours listening to podcasts, audiobooks, reading books, or I'm at the moment I'm trying to innovate myself to be able to focus, to articulate better, and also how to consume the information and how to keep them, how to save them in my memory, and how that's just the process I'm going through now. But back to the episode. If you will take your time and invest it in this episode of a Modern Wisdom, you definitely can, at the first half an hour of a podcast, you can get various tips from Andrew Huberman, but one of the most impactful is about waking up and how we can transform ourselves to be a morning person. And he's mentioning different approaches to it, but one of the main keys is it takes 3 days, only 3 days, to transform yourself into the morning person. And I think all of us can live in the state of mind that I'm a night owl, I hate getting up, and you can change and you can decide that you will be a morning riser, because it benefits you. And if your regime and your work and your family responsibilities can benefit from you waking up earlier and getting done more in the first part of the day, I think it's a no-brainer. Go for it. So you can learn a lot about how to wake up or how to be a morning person, and also how to time your exercise according to your waking up hours, and a lot more. But to move forward, I loved that there, and particularly Andrew mentioned uh, Anthony Bourdain, the chef, and his documentary Roadrunner. I was very pleased to hear this information that he liked it, because also myself, I, I loved the documentary, and also the whole spirit of Anthony Bourdain is just something unprecedented, and his life, even though ended up badly, let's say uh, he took his own life, but the legacy and the whole story of his life is so rich, and something that's never been done before himself. So definitely Roadrunner recommend. And I was it was funny because the Chris mentioned the series of World War II in color and From the Front Lines, which are the footage from World War II but colored and used in a form that is so exciting, even though it's very old footage. Can't recommend it enough. Go for World War II in color. It's even though on YouTube, so you there is no mistake to be done. Go for it. Another piece of information that I looked up is Mr. Oliver Sacks. Andrew mentioned him and his documentary, His Own Life, it's called. It's on YouTube, and I already got through it. And even though I've never heard before about Oliver, his life and his kind of expertise on how the brain works, and his field was neurodegenerative degenerative illnesses, because he was a doctor and also writer, was something I saw for first time, and I liked it. I liked his documentary, and maybe you will too. One of the best parts, one of the best part of this podcast was an hour and a half when there is a part where both Chris and Andrew are talking about how to live an amazing life and what you should do physically, and how you should treat your surroundings and people around you. And I liked that Andrew is 49 and he's so vital, so crisp in his teaching and like everything what he do. And the same applies for Chris. So that was one of the parts when you like zone in and you like every word that they say, because I'm on the same path and I want to be better. I want to be healthy. I take care of myself and I care about longevity and just striving for a meaningful, impactful, and information, just life filled with information. That's what I'm striving for, and this is why I'm taking this video also. So take care of your people, your friends, your family, and don't be in a bad state of mind just because at the moment you don't have the right people around you, because you just have to mature. You must live a little bit longer and do a different stuff just to have the opportunity to get to know those people. That's it. So I liked it. That was in a part, first hour and 56th minute. Also, just around 2 hours in this podcast, the lonely chapter. That was part that I discovered on Instagram, and that was just cut from this part of a podcast, and that was at that moment when I saw the clip from this podcast, I was hooked. I definitely was decided to see that podcast. So lonely chapter, and the chapter in your life when you're not resonate. You don't resonate with your current people around you, with your circles, and also you're not efficiently developed to have a new set of friends that you're striving for because they are living the way that you want to. So this is something that I hear from Chris a lot, because he changed his world and his life just because he moved from the UK to the USA. And I went through, and I'm going through the same phase. Even though I live in the same country, I moved to the capital city. And I can resonate with his journey, and it's something that I'm going through myself, and I like very much when he's sharing the insights of his journey. So, the lonely chapter that everybody who's working on himself must go through is very well described here. At 2 hours 32 minutes, Chris is talking about his long-term planning and how the whole self-development industry is just based on the very precise plans in the future of your future that you can't even like imagine how wrong or how small you can think, just because you're taking the information from your current situation that you don't even know that you will be in the future. You know, just to say it better, you can have plans at the moment based on your situation, but there is a moment in your life that can turn your life upside down in a bad way or good way, and that will definitely change the direction of your life. And in his perspective, he's talking about that he see only like maximum 6 months ahead. That's the period that he can plan. And I can confirm that the years, decades planning ahead is not sufficient and not correct, because when you're taking the good steps and you're going through change that you can't even realize that you're going to, that the course of your life can be changed very rapidly. And also the plan, all of your plans will be changed for sure. So I think the long term goals are good for you, but too don't stick with them too much, because you can dream bigger and you can set yourself bigger goals. But even though you can focus, and you should focus mainly on what's in front of you, what you can work towards at the moment. And that's it. Andrew mentioned that he's relating with different species, different animals all his life. And he was mentioning that his current state of mind and the animal that he's resonating with is caterpillar, because he's doing a small steps. He can only see in front of himself. He's not living in his head in the in the past, as he lived years and long periods of his life, and he mentioned that he's very pleased with it, and that was something that I resonated with also, because even though I'm much younger than himself, I lived a lot of years in the past, and past relationships, past mistakes, and I'm trying to not anymore. And successfully, for me, I'm living in the moment and thinking about the future and what my current habits are pointing in the future. So that's one of my focuses at the moment, and I liked that Andrew mentioned his point of view on this topic of a planning and what's his mode at the moment, because I care for him, I care for Grace, and this conversation with these two bright and brilliant people is something very personal to me. So I liked it very much. And that's just a brief summary of this episode. Speaking of it on the fly, I just finished the whole episode, which was around 3.5 hours. So I took it for bites. I dissected it in 3 parts, and just because the whole thing and whole conversation is so filled with reviews and recommendations and very well articulate topics, that I must take my time. I want to make my notes, and also I don't want to rush through it, because I see this time very valuable. I don't like watching episodes of podcast many times. There are some that are so gem of a podcast that it should be an audiobook that I like to revisit, but these long episodes are something that I'm trying to focus as much as I can on the process when I'm watching it, trying to consume as much as I can, note what I find valuable, and move on. Now, at the moment, there is a new strategy for me to memorize the things that I learned through the podcast, and that's this video format that I'm trying to do my best with, sharing the knowledge, sharing my experience, practicing English language, because most of the information that I consume is in American English. The notes are in English, and I'm trying to speak in English as well, and that whole ecosystem of a learning path is working for me at the moment. And as I decided to make 21 episodes, there must be some topic that I'm that I want to talk about. This is one of them. The episode from the 9th of September 2024, Modern Wisdom with Andrew Huberman. And I'm very pleased that I spent enough time with these two just to enrich myself with informations and new recommendations which are not available anywhere else. This is so valuable, the podcast form where bright and very intelligent, articulate, and just good humans are on the internet. You can find them, you can learn from them. And when those kind of people are not in your environment, in your surroundings, just find them, look for them, learn from them. I cannot emphasize it enough because I am at this process. I want to learn from the bright people that I find interesting, and I will continue in it, and hopefully I'll get better at sharing the information, probably in this video format as well, because it's one of the easiest way to learn. So I just might shake the nervousness and anxiety from myself, because I'm not used to thinking about all these informations at the moment, and at the same time trying to articulate them in my not in a language which is not which is not surrounded in my daily life, and I wasn't born I wasn't born talking English like nobody, and this is one of the ways where I can think in English, speak in English, and just trying my best without any consequences or the social pressure. The only person that is putting pressure on myself is myself, and I'm the best in it. So this is one of the ways you can be hard on yourself, and this is making skill. This is skill that I can use in the future, and I'm happy that I'm doing this thing. See you in the next episode. Today wasn't smooth enough that I wanted, but let's go. See you in the future.